A jury once put a number on a single hunting accident, more than $150 million. Write that out. $150 million over one man and one tree. The man's name was Timothy Simonton. He was 42 years old, and he died in a tree stand accident. And a court came back with a figure so large, it's hard to even read as money. Because that's the thing about a number that size. It isn't a lottery ticket. Nobody gets rich off the worst day of their life, and Simonton wasn't there to collect anything at all. A number that big is what a courtroom reaches for when it's trying to say, in the only language a courtroom has, that what happened never should have happened, and that the gap between the danger and the warning was wide enough to swallow a man whole. Now, here's the part that should stop you cold. A stand in a case like that carries a seal. A little badge on the box that says this product was tested, certified, approved by the people whose job is to make sure it doesn't kill you. The number a jury wrote was 150 million, and the one number that would have actually mattered, the number that decides whether a man climbs down or doesn't, was never printed on that box and was never part of any test that earned the badge. That's the gap I want you to sit with for the next 20 minutes because it's the whole video. The seal measures one thing, the tree measures another, and hunters fall straight through the difference. I sold these things. For years, behind the counter at a sporting goods store, I rang up climbers and hang-ons and ladder stands, and when a customer turned the box over and asked me if it was safe, I pointed at the seal and said the line I'd been handed, tested, certified, meets the standard. I believed it, the way you believe the thing you repeat 40 times a Saturday. It took me a long time and a couple of cases like Simonton's to understand what that seal actually tests, what it doesn't, and why the gap between those two things is exactly where hunters fall. So let me tell you what the badge means before I tell you what it doesn't, because the second part is the one that matters. The seal you're looking at almost certainly traces back to the Treestand Manufacturers Association, and the first thing you need to understand is what that organization says about itself in its own words on its own website. It says it does not design products, it does not test products, it does not certify products, it does not approve products. Read that again, because it's the load-bearing sentence of this entire industry. The group whose mark you're trusting with your spine states in writing that the mark is not an approval of the design. What the membership actually requires is that a manufacturer hand over a piece of paper, an acknowledgement that some representative model somewhere was tested once by a third-party lab against a written standard. That's the seal. Not, we tested this stand. It's, the company told us a version of this stand passed a test, and we filed the paperwork. Now, why would a system be built that way? Follow the money the way you'd follow a blood trail, slow and low to the ground, and it gets obvious fast. Walk into a Bass Pro, a Cabela's, a big box outdoor retailer, and try to get a tree stand onto that shelf without the membership and the compliance paperwork. You can't. The seal isn't primarily a gate that protects you from a bad stand. It's a gate that protects the retailer and the manufacturer from you, or more precisely, from your lawyer. Because here's the second piece of the architecture. Since 2003, the written standard has required that every tree stand sold ship with a full-body fall arrest harness in the box. That sounds like a safety win, and in one narrow way it was. But think about what it does legally. The day after you fall, the company's file shows the stand met the standard, the harness was in the box, the warnings were printed, and you were a grown adult who chose how to use it. The seal and the harness are the first two exhibits in a defense, drafted before the accident, designed to establish that everyone did their job, except the man who hit the ground. I'm not telling you the standard is worthless. I'm telling you it was built to answer a question. Can this product be defended? That is not the same question you're asking when you turn the box over at the counter. You're asking, will this hold me? They're answering, have we covered ourselves? And by the end of this video, I'm going to give you the one question that actually tells you what the seal can't, plus the 3 exact places on any stand where the failure starts. The 3 places I now check on every stand I own, because I've seen what happens at all 3. Hold on to that. 1 question, 3 places. I'll keep coming back to it. And before we get to the tree, you need to know what that lab test actually is, because the second you understand it, you understand the whole con. The written standard the manufacturer's representative model gets tested against is a set of bench tests. There's a static load test. They put a fixed weight on the stand and confirm it holds without collapsing. There's a stability test. Does it tip? There's a repetitive loading test. They cycle a load onto it some number of times and check that it survives. And on paper, that sounds rigorous. A weight, a count, a pass. But every one of those tests has the same blind spot baked into it. It's run once, on one new unit, in a climate-controlled room, with parts that have never seen a single sunrise. The static test asks, can a brand new stand hold 300 pounds today? It does not ask, can this stand hold 200 pounds after it's spent 4 winters strapped to a white oak? Those are not the same question, and the difference between them is measured in paralyzed hunters. The lab certifies the stand at the one moment in its entire life when it is strongest, the day it's manufactured, and then ships it into the one environment, the outdoors, guaranteed to make it weaker every day it's out there. The seal is a photograph of the stand at its peak. The tree is the time-lapse nobody films. Let's start with where hunters actually die, because the numbers reframe everything. Tree stand falls are the most common serious injury in hunting. Not gunshots, falls. In a typical year, somewhere around 6,000 hunters end up in a hospital after coming out of a tree, and that number has, in study after study, outrun firearm injuries by a wide margin. One 10-year review in the Midwest was titled, flatly, "The tree stands and not guns are the deer hunter's most dangerous weapon." So already the picture in your head is wrong. The thing in the truck bed, not the thing in the gun case, is what's putting hunters in the trauma ward. But here's the number that should change how you look at that seal forever. When researchers go back through the records and ask not how many people fell, but when in the sequence they fell, were they sitting in the stand or were they moving? The answer comes back the same every time. Somewhere between 74 and 86% of falls happen during the climb. Going up, coming down, transitioning from the sticks to the platform, from the platform to the seat. Not while you're parked at hunting height watching a food plot. During the part where you're moving, with your hands full, in the dark. Now go back to the harness in the box, the one the standard requires, the one that's supposed to be the safety system. When are you actually clipped into it? At the top. After you've climbed, after you've reached your height, after you've gotten settled, you take the tether and you clip into the tree above your head. The fall arrest system in that box is engineered to catch you while you're tethered at the stand, which means the boxed safety gear protects you during the seated part, the part that almost never kills anybody, and leaves you completely unprotected during the climb, which is the part that kills almost everybody. They built the safety system for the wrong scene. They armored the moment you were already going to survive and sent you up the tree naked for the moment that actually drops you. And this is where I have to be careful, because the easy version of this story, the version the industry would love for you to tell, is that hunters die because they're careless and won't clip in. You'll hear that. You'll hear that the data shows fewer than 3% of fall victims were wearing a harness, that better than 80% weren't connected to anything at all, and the conclusion you're supposed to draw is that it's your fault, you idiot. You had the gear and didn't use it. I'm not going to tell you that because it's a dodge. Ask the real question. Why does 80% of the time the harness sit unused at exactly the moment the falls happen? Because the system makes connection optional and inconvenient, and because the device they handed you clips in at the top, after the danger, instead of catching you from the ground up. You can't fail to use a system for the climb when the system was never designed for the climb. That's not a careless hunter. That's a product that solved the easy problem and shipped the hard one back to you. So that's the frame. The seal tests the stand the day it's born, in a lab, sitting still, holding a static weight. The included harness protects you for the calm part at the top. And the tree, 4 seasons of rain and sun, and freeze and thaw, 10,000 climbs up and down. Your full weight slamming the welds in the cable every single time you move. The tree runs a completely different test every season, and that test is not on the box. Which brings me to the teardown. Because here's the thing that finally made the whole picture click for me, the thing I want to be the part you remember. I went back through 30 years of recalls on these products, 3 decades of official documented recalls on tree stands carrying that seal. And they don't scatter, they collapse, almost every single one, into the same 3 failure modes. The same 3, for 30 years. On certified stand after certified stand, from budget brands to premium brands with the badge on every box. Failure number 1 is the cable. On a climbing stand, on a lot of hang-ons, there's a steel cable or a coated aircraft cable that wraps the tree and carries your entire weight. Coated cable looks bulletproof. That's the problem. The coating splits, a nick, a kink, UV breaking down the plastic, and water gets under it, and the steel starts rusting from the inside out where you cannot see it. The wire strands corrode one by one. The cable loses strength a few percent at a time, and from the outside, the plastic jacket still looks glossy and intact, right up until the morning it parts. By the time it lets go, it looks fine from 3 feet away. Pull the recall list, and you'll see it again and again. Climbers recalled because the cable could separate. Cable assemblies recalled for corrosion. Crimped cable ends that slip out of the sleeve under load. Brand after brand after brand. Budget aluminum climbers, mid-priced hang-ons, the works, all certified, all carrying the seal, all recalled for the same rusting, slipping, separating cable. And notice the tell. When a recall finally happens, it's usually because the injury's already piled up high enough that the company couldn't sit on it anymore. The recall is the autopsy, not the prevention. The lab tested a brand new cable in dry air and it passed. The tree tested a 4-year-old cable that lived outside through every storm of every season. Only one of those cables is hanging in the woods right now with your weight about to swing onto it. Failure number 2 is the weld. Aluminum and steel stands are held together at the joints by welds, and welds are where stress concentrates. The certification test loads that weld a handful of times and confirms it holds. The season loads that weld thousands of times. Every time you shift your weight, stand to shoot, sit back down, twist to follow a deer. Metal fatigues. That's not an opinion, it's physics. Load a metal joint enough times, even well below the weight that would snap it in one go, and microscopic cracks start at the surface and grow a little with every cycle until the weld lets go at a load it shrugged off 1,000 times before. Welds at the seat, welds at the platform, welds on the climbing sticks you trust to get up there in the first place. Pull the list. Climbers recalled for welds breaking, hang-ons recalled for the seat weld cracking, climbing sticks recalled for weld failure that drops you before you've even reached the stand. Same seal on all of them. And the brutal part is, a cracking weld gives almost no warning. It holds and holds and holds, and then on an ordinary morning, on the 10,001st load, on a cold day when the metal's a little more brittle, it doesn't. There's no creak that means today. There's just before and after. Failure number 3 is the strap, and this is the one with a name attached to it, so I'm going to slow down. The straps that hold a hang-on or a ladder stand to the tree are often a webbing, and a lot of the cheap ones are polypropylene, which is a plastic that the sun destroys. UV light breaks it down. A strap that's rated to hold thousands of pounds when it's new can lose most of its strength after a couple of seasons baking in the weather, and it does it invisibly, fading and stiffening, while it still looks like a strap. The companies that actually make webbing will tell you flatly, this is not designed to live outside year-round, but the stand is sold to be hung in July and hunted through December, left up, climbed every weekend. The product's whole use case is the one thing the strap can't survive. There's a man named Kevin O'Brien. He climbed into a stand that had been hanging on a tree for about 5 years. The straps had been in the weather that whole time. They let go. He fell, and he was paralyzed. The case went to a jury, and the jury awarded millions. A verdict the manufacturer then fought through the courts for years, and the legal fight wasn't even mainly about whether the stand was badly designed. It centered on whether the company adequately warned him that the straps degrade and have to be replaced. Sit with that. The defense wasn't, our product was perfect. Part of the argument was about the warning. The seal was never the question in that courtroom because the seal was never going to save him. A 5-year-old polypropylene strap in the sun does not care what badge is on the box. And now, go back to that number from the start of this video, the $150 million. The man who didn't come down. Put O'Brien's case next to it, and the pattern is the whole story in miniature. 2 men, years apart, different brands, both holding products that met the standard, both failed by the exact part of the system the standard never looked hard at. The strap that aged, the connection that wasn't there. Both stands were certified. Both seals were right there on the box. Neither of them protected the man who trusted it. And in both cases, the courtroom ended up doing the auditing the seal was supposed to do, years too late, and measured in dollars instead of lives. So, if you're watching this, and nobody has ever told you that the certification seal does not test the thing that actually kills you, that the same 3 failures, the cable, the weld, the strap, have been recurring for 30 years on certified products, and that the safety gear in the box protects the wrong half of your hunt, then do me one favor and subscribe, because pulling these apart, recall by recall and weld by weld, is the entire reason this channel exists. I'm not going to point at a seal and tell you it's safe. I'm going to show you where it breaks. Now, the obvious move at this point is to say, fine, I'll just buy a better brand, a different logo. And I need to close that door before you walk through it, because it's a trap, and it's a trap built on purpose. Pull the curtain back on who actually owns these brands, and the wall of choices at the store turns out to be mostly 1 or 2 companies wearing a lot of different hats. One outdoor conglomerate, in a single stretch, brought a budget Treestand brand, a mid-tier brand, and a premium hang-on brand all under one roof. 3 different brands, 3 different price points on 3 different shelves, 1 owner, 1 overseas supply chain feeding all of them. And these roll-up companies don't stop at 3. They acquire and acquire knife brands, optics brands, call brands, stand brands, until a huge slice of what's hanging in the hunting aisle traces back to a handful of parent companies you've never heard of, most of them passed hand to hand between private equity firms that buy the names, centralize the sourcing overseas, keep the logos, and run them at separate price tiers so it still feels like a market. You think you're choosing between a value option and a premium option. You're choosing between 2 stickers on products that share a parent, a factory, and the same 3 failure modes. And every one of those boxes carries the same seal, because the seal, remember, is the shelf pass, not the safety test. That's why the system never fixes itself. The seal doesn't reward the company that builds a better cable. It rewards the company that files the paperwork and pays the dues, and a rusting cable files paperwork just as well as a good one. There's no competitive pressure to out-engineer anybody on the thing that kills you, because the customer was taught to look for the badge, and the badge says nothing about it. Buying the more expensive logo from the same parent company doesn't get you out of the system. It gets you the same cable, the same welds, the same straps, at a higher price, with a fancier sticker. There's your logo tax, and it buys you exactly nothing where it counts. So if the seal doesn't tell you, and the price doesn't tell you, and the brand on the front is half theater, what does tell you? This is the payoff. 1 question, 3 places. Here it is. The 1 question is not, is it certified? The 1 question is, how old is the part that's under load, and have I personally inspected it this season? That's it. The certification answers a question about a stand that doesn't exist anymore, the brand new one in the lab. The only question that maps to the tree is about the stand as it exists, right now, this season, with this many years of weather on it. Every fall in this video traces back to that question going unasked. The straps that aged 5 years in the sun, the cable rusting under its coating, every recalled weld, age under load, inspected or not. Ask it about your own stand, and you're already ahead of the seal. And the 3 places, because a question needs somewhere to land. Place 1, the cable. Get your hands on it. Flex it. You're looking for any split in the coating, any orange bleed at the crimps where the steel is rusting under the plastic, any kink. If it's coated cable more than a couple of seasons old and it's lived outside, you replace it, full stop. And a lot of serious hunters have stopped trusting cable entirely and swapped to chain, which doesn't hide its corrosion the way coated cable does. The manufacturers won't push you toward chain because cable is cheaper to ship. Do it anyway. Place 2, the welds. Every joint that carries weight, the seat frame, the platform, the steps on your sticks. You're looking for hairline cracks, especially at the corners and where the tube meets the bracket. If you buy a used stand, and a lot of you do, this is non-negotiable because some of the most popular climbers on the resale market have a documented history of welds cracking, and the previous owner is not going to mention it. Check before you trust it 20 feet up. Place 3, the straps, and the rule is simple. Replace them on a cycle, every other season at the outside, sooner if they live in the sun. And when you replace them, do not buy the cheapest polypropylene webbing you can find. Polyester holds up far better in UV. And never ever treat a strap as a permanent install just because the stand is sold like one. The strap is the one part the whole industry quietly knows has an expiration date, and the one part most likely to be ignored. Then there's the thing the box should have included and didn't. For $30, you can run a lifeline, a rope down the tree with a Prusik knot you clip into, so that you are connected from the moment your boot leaves the ground all the way up to the stand and all the way back down. That covers the climb. That covers the 70+% of falls the boxed harness leaves you exposed for. It is the piece that should have been in the box from the start, because it's the piece that protects the part of the hunt that actually kills people, and the only reason it isn't standard is that it wasn't required to be. You're not patching your own carelessness when you add it. You're patching theirs. I'll say a quick word about brands, because people always ask, and the honest answer fits the theme. There are a couple of names that serious hunters trust, and it's worth noticing why. The U.S. welded independent makers, the ones that built their reputation on castings and welds that hold up over a decade, the ones that come up over and over on the hardcore forums, didn't earn that trust through the seal. They have the same seal as everyone else. They earned it through a recall record that stays clean year after year and through builds that hunters keep for 10 and 15 seasons and pass down. The seal can't show you that. Only the track record can, and the track record is public if you go looking. The lesson isn't buy this logo. The lesson is that the thing worth paying for is the build and the record, neither of which is what the badge measures. So go back to that number one more time. $150 million over one man and one tree. It is a staggering figure, and it buys back nothing. Not a step, not a season, not the man. The seal on that box did exactly what it was built to do. It got the stand onto the shelf. It put a harness in the box. It covered the company the day the receipt was signed. It just was never built to do the thing the hunter trusted it to do. It was never going to ask how old the part under load was. That question was his to ask, and nobody ever told him it was the only one that mattered. The seal was right there. It just wasn't looking at the part that breaks.